It's another top 5 matchup for Ohio State. This is their third since October 12th. And this is the first ever for Indiana. I'm Steven, that's Stephon, that's Andrew. There's a lot of well-known guys on both sides of the ball at this point, especially for Ohio State. But who are the X factors? Who are the underdogs? Who are the underrated guys? Who are you not talking about that you should be talking about that could play a vital role in who wins this game on Saturday? Well, we're here to talk about them. Stephon, who you got?
With Tyreek Williams, I feel like I talk about him a lot in the context of guys we don't talk about a lot. So I'm making sure that I'm the one who's ensuring that he's getting his praise. This Indiana team, and listen, I can give you the coach speak and tell you that they're a very balanced attack, and when they run the ball, they have success passing the ball and all that stuff. But it is very true for this team with the RPOs that they have and the actions that they run there. And as good as their offense is, there's some concerns with the interior of their offensive line because of injuries. And I'm looking at Tyreek Williams as a guy who, if he has the type of game we know he can have, right? I mean, he's an all Big Ten player, all-American caliber player, potential first-round pick, everything that goes along with being a great player at Ohio State, he has. If he can blow up the interior of this offensive line the way we've seen him do at times, and Ty Hamilton to some extent also deserves to be part of this conversation, it can change everything for Ohio State's, or for Indiana's offense, I should say, right? It makes life easier for Denzel Burke and Davison Igbinosun and Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom if the running game for Indiana is not what we've seen it be at times against certain opponents. So if Tyreek Williams, and if you want to clump Ty Hamilton into that conversation ahead as well, go ahead. If they do what we know they can do, it can make it a really tough day for Indiana's offense, and it could really change how this game could go. A game that's an 11-point spread, it could end up being a blowout if we see Indiana have no running game because of what those guys do in the middle.
So Stephon taking the defensive tackles. I'll let you take both of those guys, unless Andrew was going to take a defensive tackle.
No. So when Stephon, I'm very glad Stephon gave the answer the way that he did, because he mentioned Caleb Downs, Lathan Ransom, Davison Igbinosun, Denzel Burke. He did not name Jordan Hancock. And I think Jordan Hancock
should have went first.
I think Jordan Hancock is going to have a really, really important part of this game, because obviously Indiana, their passing attack, in terms of yards per attempt, they're third in the country. Army's number one, because I know Army diversified their offense. I don't want people in the comments telling me, oh, they will. They don't actually run the triple option like they used to. I get it. But it's still basically a trick play whenever Army throws the ball sometimes. We just saw like a 20-play drive. So Army's number one. I believe Ole Miss is number two. And then Indiana's number three. Indiana is going to come out here and throw the football. They are going to throw that thing all over the yard, and I'm very curious as to what happens on the kind of interior in between the numbers right at the hash, because that, I think, is where Curtis Rourke is going to try to make some of his living. We'll see if he just wants to go after Denzel Burke and Davison Igbinosun. I mean, Jim Knowles got asked today about Davison Igbinosun's penalties every week. It feels like he's getting one per week. The question was, do you think you just have to live with that? So we talk about the outside guys so much. Jordan Hancock up the middle, I mean, he plays close to the line of scrimmage. Jim Knowles talked about him fitting the run and kind of being that blitzer. He's got great cover skills. This is exactly the type of player that you want in a game like Indiana. We're going to say this again in a couple of weeks. If Ohio State does get to the Big Ten championship game and they play Oregon, that is exactly the type of player that you need, because when you have a team that can go three deep like that, or a team that can throw the ball like Indiana can, that's really difficult to defend, because there's not many teams in the country that have that level of depth at corner. Ohio State just happens to be one of them, because Jordan Hancock is really, really good. And I think we would probably agree at this point, Jordan Hancock's playing the best of any of their corners right now.
Definitely the most consistent.
I should have went first. That's what I was going to do. Actually, no, I had a backup one, and I was going to do it. I was going to do both of them if he didn't pick that one. I'm going to make you take Lorenzo Styles Jr. as well. And the reason why is they play a lot of four wide receiver out there. They've got two outside guys who are downfield threats, and that's where a lot of those back shoulder throws come into occasion. But they've also got two slot guys who I think like 80% of their yards have been after the catch. So both of those guys, Jordan Hancock and Lorenzo Styles, I think both of those guys, to what you're talking about, yes, we can talk about the outside receivers, but it's also on the interior for a team who runs a lot of RPOs. I'm going to go with the hypothetical one then. I was going to do this. I was going to have a hypothetical one and then have a real one. The Jordan Hancock one was going to be the real one. The hypothetical one is going to be the Jack. and it's C.J. Hicks and it's Mitchell Melton. Mitchell Melton did not play against Northwestern. Ryan Day said he was going to practice on Tuesday, and they're going to see how things continue to unfold throughout the week. But we did see the Jack against Purdue, and I'm wondering if the only reason we didn't see it against Northwestern is because Mitchell Melton didn't play. If Mitchell Melton plays, or even if he doesn't, maybe there's a role for C.J. Hicks. Maybe there's a role for Mitchell Melton, and they've been saving it. They said it's been very basic, right? They didn't have a lot installed at the time, but they just wanted to see what it looked like on the field. Well, you've seen it. It wasn't perfect, but it looked like a position you hadn't played for 2 years. And I liked what I saw, even if they gave up some stuff, because you didn't have it out there with the starters. I am just wondering if they've been saving it for an opponent like this, where the Jack is supposed to be the answer to some things, right? For a team who likes to run a lot of RPOs, you have a quarterback in Curtis Rourke who can run. He hasn't done it a lot this year for Indiana in comparison to what he did at Ohio University, but you can kind of say the same thing about Will Howard. He ran a lot more at Kansas State than what he's run this year, even if he's got 6 touchdowns this year. And I'm just wondering, man, if that's the ace up the sleeve for this game, is either Mitchell Melton or C.J. Hicks off the edge playing that Jack role. It's a position that you sprinkled in just enough that you got to see it without it being something so serious that Indiana isn't going to be at least a little bit caught off guard by seeing it. And I'm just wondering if you put it out there for 5 to 10 snaps and it makes a level of a play for you that might flip this game on its head. So, yeah, defensive tackles, cornerbacks, an imaginary position that was finally real 2 weeks ago. That's where I'm going with this. All defensive stuff, obviously. I think on the offense, it's pretty obvious. Can Donovan Jackson repeat what he did against Penn State a couple of weeks ago, while everything else seems to be very surefire for Ohio State? And is Will Kazmaier going to play? But those are X factors. Those are underrated. Those are our other guys. It's one of my favorite movies, The Other Guys. I love that movie. It's a great movie. Stefan, Andrew, Steven, we're not the other guys. We're starters. The other guys were here for
the bushes.
The other guys were out here for Iowa. Get the text 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. And go listen to Buckeye Talk wherever you find podcasts. Ohio State, Indiana on Saturday at noon. Top 5 matchup.